curator Arda Sayıner, journalist, Hürriyet newspaper, and also Nihal Terzi, founder of the Health Store Turkey. Please welcome.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Once again, we are all together. Some of you already familiar with this wonderful conference series, let's say. And dear Nihal has been attending this very often. So it's so great to see all of you all together. And once again, thank you very much, Yalçın Avcı, for bringing all of us together. So as you know, UK is such a great market, important market to Turkey. A number of British patients are getting more and more every single day. And I'm sure you are all here because of that. So it's wonderful to see you here in London. And today I have dear Nihal Terzi, the founder of Health Store Turkey. She's a real success story, Since I'm a journalist, I've been meeting with many different businesswomen from all around the world. And she is really one of the best among all the people that I interviewed so far. And so that's why I'm sure she has a lot to tell you. And I would like to start with my first question, which is regarding the pandemics. So dear Nihal, thank you very much for attending again.
Thanks.
So it's so great to see you here.
Have I got my microphone
I
switched
think
on?
it's on. Is it on? Can you hear?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Okay.
So the pandemic is over. Let's say it's over. In certain countries it's not over, but let's say at least in the UK it's over.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think Turkey still has the same attention from the UK patients?
As a company that started during the pandemic, and we weren't quite sure how we were going to carry on. Obviously, now the travel restrictions are over, and obviously people are able to travel, and it was a shock to the system this year, because we kind of thought, okay, people's worries, health worries are over, the NHS was going to kind of pick up and recover from the effects of the pandemic. But we found actually it's getting worse and worse day by day, and we are actually finding the number of patients traveling to Turkey for any kind of medical treatment is increasing. So we're seeing an increase of the number of the patients that was traveling, and along like me, every other medical tourism agency or a hospital that was actually bringing patients from abroad, they're all up on the increase as well. So yes, it's going strong.
It's going strong. But on the other hand, there's a bad publicity about it. Although many British patients are traveling to Turkey, I mean, me as a journalist, I'm quite a witness of seeing all this, negative news about Turkey and Turkish hospitals. So don't you think that there's a little dilemma?
Yes, there is. And I understand why, and I think the companies like me are trying to overcome that and helping the hospitals trying to overcome that, and helping the country as a whole, Turkey, to overcome that bad image. I guess we are doing fantastic work for UK and Ireland. I mean, from my point of view, and Germany. And we so far we've done over 3,000 patients, and if we say we never had a complication, I would be lying. And everybody who knows, who is sitting here involved in the medical industry, there are always a risk of a complication for any kind of, basically complication doesn't mean negligence. Complication means something that comes along with any medical treatment. It could be a number of things. But the way the British media at the moment sensationalizing the fact that what you would expect in any country, any hospital, any and is being sensationalized and then putting out there to scare the general public to travel to Turkey for medical treatment, but they're not actually being given an alternative in UK. I mean, I'm a British citizen. If I could have my operation here, if I thought it was going to be the same quality, same speed, same cost, I would have it here. Why would I need to go and travel to Turkey? I would stay here and get the. I mean, I'd rather not to pay for it because I paid my taxes for the last 26 years. I'd rather have it on the NHS. But if I can't have it, I would like to have the alternative. But the downside is it's a fast-growing, cash-rich industry. Like every industry where there is money involved, then there are people that is starting to cut corners, cut costs, and there is that whole let's get the business done mentality in Turkey. Do it fast, do it quick, do it. There is no checks and balances put in place. They just want to see as many patients coming through, and that's basically why it's easy to target Turkey and make it.
So who's supposed to do that check and balances? I mean, the government itself, the ministries, or sometimes the hospitals? What do you think?
Do you know what? I think there is this thing in the Turkish culture. We expect everything to be delivered by the government, but we can check ourselves. I check myself. I do it. I put my own standards, and the people who works for me works to our company's standards. So when everybody puts those standards and work to those standards, you can check yourself. You don't have to. You don't have to need a government to regulate you. But if it's needed, there has to be that in place too. So at the moment, one of my biggest issues, there are far too many medical tourism agencies being granted medical tourism licenses. And also the hospitals are allowed to open as many medical tourism agencies as they want, owned by the hospital's own owners. And so there is something is missing, and we don't know how to kind of overcome that at the moment.
So, but do you think maybe the local competition is also another reason of that bad publicity? So, because all these Turkish hospitals and the clinics are quite a big competitor, right?
So competitive, yes. We are our own worst enemy sometimes. In Izmir, say for instance, I'd like to bring everybody together, and I like to work together and make Izmir as a tourism destination and a medical tourism destination, because as a tourism city it doesn't exist because there is no nice resorts nearby. But as a medical tourism destination, we can make it happen. But nobody gets together. There is no, what I used to find in the UK, people actually learn from each other, and you basically form a unity. But in Turkey, the competitiveness always gets a bit, fierce, and you like to start doing things in silos. You basically, I can control myself, so that's who I control at the moment. So there is nothing much we can do about that, and we're not going to change, Turkey as a nation. So, yeah.
So can we say that there's a little exaggeration on the news then? So because you were already witness of many cases in Turkey,
Yeah.
of course, but nobody knows the numbers probably. I mean, if you compare with the numbers, you will see the percentage of that patients
Yes.
having problem. I mean, we might have certain amount of patients having problem. I mean, I wish they didn't have any problem, of course. But on the other hand, when you compare with the percentages, there's not a huge percentage, I believe. So you know the numbers better. And my other question is actually why we don't know the numbers. I mean, who knows the numbers?
Who knows the real numbers? Nobody. Because, I've tried to do this study myself. So I took the NHS complications and the percentage of the complications. I took the HSE, the Irish Health Systems complication numbers, and I put my own against that. And then when I look at it, actually, we are far low than the NHS complications. So that's my own, but because the Health Store Turkey from the moment we started with CRM systems. We follow the patient's journey from literally from the moment they text, ring, or email to 2 years down the line when they just basically holding their first babies. So we know exactly what happens with our patients throughout that process. Sometimes they struggle, sometimes it's a walk in the park kind of easy journey. But I know my numbers. But the only way to actually overcome this unknownness is educate the British public. That's basically what my goal is in the next year. All of my social media campaigns and all of my marketing campaigns is going to be about educating the British nation and the Irish nation how to find safe medical tourism agency, how to find safe hospitals, how to basically travel abroad safely. And you have to do your bit. You can't always blame the hospital, blame the medical tourism agency. You can't always blame the doctor. You have to take some responsibility on doing your own research before you actually choose to travel abroad for medical tourism. So my aim is educating and giving the facts of what they need to look for when they choose to travel abroad for medical tourism. And that's what and in that way, then all the numbers will be registered, and that way we'll be able to turn around to NHS next year and say, actually, we done 100,000 surgeries in Turkey last year, in Turkey, and we saved NHS this much money, and the complications cost you this much money, and actually overall we're saving you a lot of money rather than costing you money.
Yeah.
At the moment, that's what they're saying. We're costing NHS money.
So I'm going to come to that point. Speaking of NHS, actually, although Turkish hospitals and health tourism agencies are competing with the local brands, we are also actually helping NHS, right, in the long term.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
because you already mentioned something about that during the breakfast, so I want you to share this with our guests here.
Yes, one thing they concentrate on at the moment is the number of the complications that are coming back from Turkey. And costing the NHS because they're either having to go through an emergency surgery or medical follow-ups by a nurse, doctors, or whatever. But we also did the numbers on how many patients that we healed, diabetes, basically after a bariatric surgery. The obesity actually cost NHS a lot of money, not on the terms of the cost of a surgery, actually on the terms of most of these people have diabetes, high blood pressure, depression, and within literally 6 months after the surgery, in majority of the cases, what we're finding is they're stopping taking at least 5 to 6 medications they were taking before their surgery, which means they're not going to their GP, and the long-term effects of diabetes is not going to be there. Long-term effects of high blood pressure, heart attacks is not going to be there. So, in the long run, we are actually saving NHS a lot of money, and also. The difference between the Turkish health system at the moment and the our NHS and HSE health system, they're only attending to medical emergencies more than preventing the things that are supposed to happen. Whereas it's because we don't have enough spaces in the hospitals here right now, but we have in Turkey because we have the infrastructure. We have great hospitals and private hospitals. We have great, government hospitals. Government hospitals takes majority of the burden, and which leaves the private hospitals the freedom to do what we're doing right now. If it wasn't for the great infrastructure, it wouldn't happen.
Of course, no, I 100% agree with you. So how about the current difficulties that we are facing as an industry in Turkey? I mean, although everything, look wonderful from the distance, but in real, and you're in the core of everything. So what are those current difficulties that we are facing?
The current difficulties, is basic as you promised, is the bad publicity that we're getting from the British media and the Irish media mainly, because this is where the majority of the people travel to Turkey from, from here. So like we have German patients traveling. We don't have the same problem in Germany. We're kind of being left alone a little bit. That every so often we hear something, but it's not as bad as UK.
Well, what's the main reason you think?
It's generally is the sensationalizing again of the we have obviously people losing lives in Turkey. Because people going back and having to have emergency, operations, and as you know, NHS is a touchy subject. So everybody wants to kind of target, those kind of issues. The main difficulties, though, at the moment, like in Izmir, for me, I don't have any more nice hotels to put my patients in. Like you think, okay. We have lots of patients coming in, perfect, and everything's going great. But if you only have 4 or 5-star hotels in a city, during the summer season, and all the trade shows are happening, literally don't have any hotels. So
you mean because the hotels are all booked?
Yeah,
right.
Booked, full. We generally book our patients in 2 months ahead into the hotels. But there can be some changes because sometimes they have to stay in the hospital a bit longer or whatever. But there is no hotels left, so which led me to open up in Fethiye and in Antalya. So I have to go where the hotels are. I can't actually sell more surgeries in Izmir anymore because
That's a very interesting fact. Yeah.
I know unless you help me build a hotel.
Or the government does.
Yeah, or the government does. Yeah, I did actually speak to the Wali.
Okay, the governor.
Governor, and saying, can we actually build a medical tourism hotel where actually we can have hospitals place doctors and nurses in place, so it will be just for the medical tourism patients. So that way we know everybody's going to be looked after, just like it's being in a hotel in Izmir. But I don't know. It was just
No, it's a great idea.
It was an idea. If somebody does it, it will be amazing. Yeah.
All right. So, how do you see the future of the business then? I mean, do you think this is gonna continue as it is, or because anything might change with NHS in the future, right? So.
Yeah. More than the NHS, I think, the regulations, at the moment we're not being regulated and we're leaving the British media open for this kind of attacks. So if we don't regulate it, I fear that it's going to be the British government, like they did to, some other countries. If they put it out, so you can't travel to Turkey for medical tourism, that's it, we had it.
Yeah.
And that's a fact that can happen because at the moment, nobody's, even though it's very unlikely because the NHS needs us, they don't have anywhere else to go to. But, it can happen. We've seen things like that happen before, travel restrictions to Turkey. And there is no reason why it won't happen for medical, tourism. So, before you kind of put all your eggs in one basket, you need to kind of like think about that as well. But apart from that, the future of the business is the way that I see it. More and more cities that the House Door Turkey goes to. I am kind of on target to achieve what I set out to achieve because I don't want to just be in one city and do, I want to actually put the same standards across all hospitals, all medical tourism agencies and people who want to get involved in medical tourism in the UK and I want to work with them all. And if we're all working to the same standards and grow the business accordingly, why not? So I already agreed with 2 hospitals to work with in Fethiye and Antalya. So that's kind of going to the right direction.
And I think you recently opened your own dental clinic in Fethiye, correct?
Not in Fethiye, in Izmir.
In Izmir, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, in
Yeah.
Izmir. All right.
Yeah.
So your business, your brand is expanding as well, like the market.
Yes, like the market, we need to kind of, as I said, if you can't control, what's happening out there, and you can't control the standards, you kind of have your own standards, and you kind of, grow with people who wants to follow those standards. So, all I did was invest in a doctor and invest in a dentist that I know the quality of the work is there, and because I've seen their work more than a year. And that's my thing. I follow people for a year before I decide to work with them. The same as with the Fethiye doctor, same as with the hospital, same as with the Antalya. For a year, I've been just in the background, following what they do, checking, their results, and then decide to go and work with them.
Thank you very much.
No, thank you. It's nice to see you again.
Thank you for coming. It was
Thank
great to have you. So, any questions, ladies and gentlemen?
It's too early in the morning.
Any question? Yes, please.
I wanted to ask about the regulations. You said there's no regulations in this country. Could you elaborate a bit more on how you are operating your businesses there?
Here,
Yeah,
in the UK, I have a registered company, and actually all legally compliant with what we do in Turkey. So basically, the British business is the marketing element of it, and the Turkish business has got the medical tourism license, travel agency license, and it's a registered business. Basically, every patient is insured. Every patient is for complications, and also for travel. Basically, they kind of complete each other. And if anything that happens here, I'm a medical travel agency. So I have the same regulations as a normal travel agency. That's the arrangements.
Any other question? Please, yeah.
Is there a microphone? No. Okay. Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for the nice presentation and nice explanations. My name is Samet. We are from Bursa, from Medical Hospital. As far as I see, you mostly explain about the dental issues or the cosmetic issues like the bariatric surgeries, plastic surgeries. What about your expectation for the orthopedic and traumatology surgery like spine, joint replacement surgeries?
In the last 2 months, I started to look into other waiting lists in the UK and in the UK and Ireland, and there are certain things, there are certain regulations that they have to be treated within a certain amount of weeks in here. So, and also people don't want to travel if it means they need to stay in Turkey for a long period of time because of their family commitments and the cost of the surgery. So even though we are really good at, like, we do a lot of orthopedics, hips and knees, but it's the elder generation where they don't have any time restrictions, they don't have to go back to work, they don't have to, they don't have family commitments, and they don't have work commitments. They can stay in Turkey for 6 to 8 weeks. We can put them through the surgery, put them through the physiotherapy, and then they go back home. But again, for me, Izmir makes it really difficult because I don't have a hotel to put them for weeks. So it will always go back to the same thing. And the cost increases, so we're kind of going back to the same, cost as UK if they were to have it in UK. But for like a urology, it's a new, like an area for us. But within the last month, we've seen the increase going up. And for general surgery, not just bariatric, but but like the gallstones, the waiting list at the moment is 60, gallbladder, gallstone surgeries is 6 to 8 months at the moment. So the inquiries are gone up. And the hernias again, when you're in pain, you're in pain. You're going to travel to get it fixed, especially if you can just do it on your credit card.
All right. Any other question? I think no. All right.
Okay.
Thank you once again.
Thank you. I'm here if everybody wants to ask me anything.
We are moving to the next section.
Thank you.